Let's make that. Happy New Year! Welcome to your first recipe of your Peach Betty calendar. We're going to make Millionaire bars. These are very similar to a Twix bar. They have a shortbread crust. We're going to start first. And that has flour, sugar, and salt, and then melted butter. All you do is take all of your dry ingredients and mix them together just until they're all incorporated. And then you take your melted butter that you just melted in the microwave. And now we just stir until it's a nice crumb. Make sure you don't see any dry bits. You want it to all be nice and smooth. This is looking pretty good. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees already. And I have prepped a 9x13 baking dish with aluminum foil. I've become a real big fan of using aluminum foil to line my pans. It's so much easier to use than parchment because I can press it and shape it into any pan that I use. Everything comes off super clean. Now that our dough is all put together, we're just going to dump it into our pan. Kind of break it up so you can make sure you can cover the whole bottom. And then take the palm of your hand and start to flatten it all. Just scooting the dough over to fill in any empty gaps. This is not very technical. Just squish. A buttery mess. Okay, now that it's all pressed in there, let's just stick it in the oven and it bakes for about 25 to 35 minutes. Just until it's golden brown. For this caramel filling, it's very important to have a candy thermometer. We're going to be cooking this caramel to 235 degrees. If it's too hot, the caramel will be really hard. If you don't cook it long enough, it'll be too soft and ooze out as you cut it. For the recipe, you have butter, sweetened condensed milk, heavy cream, brown sugar, and cornstarch. It is also important to have a big whisk and a big spatula. We're going to be whisking continuously. If you don't whisk continuously, you're going to burn it on the bottom. Let's get it on the stove. Start your caramel sauce when your cookie dough timer is at 16 minutes. That way they're both done at the same time. That shortbread smells really good. I know it's time to get out of the oven when it starts to get just a little brown around the edges. This smells so buttery. You can just see a little bit of brown around the edges. That's when you know it's done. Now our caramel sauce is on the stove. It's ready to come off and I'm going to pour it right in. This looks so good. Pour it all right on top. Scrape it all out of there. You can see a little bit of brown flecks in here, and that just means part of my caramel got a little bit too hot and got a little extra toasted. But I think that just adds a little extra flavor. Feel free to leave some in the bottom to lick later. Now just take your spatula and push it to the edges, trying to get it as evenly coated as possible. Whew, this smells so good. Be very careful, this is super hot, so don't lick this yet. Set it aside and let it cool for a minute. Once this is cooled enough to touch, you're going to stick it in the fridge and let it cool for about an hour and a half before we top it with our melted chocolate. Now that our caramel is completely cool, we can top it with our chocolate. I've taken 8 ounces of chocolate chips and melted them in the microwave. The trick to melting it in the microwave is 2 minutes on power 5. Give it a stir, and then give it another 1 minute and 50 seconds on power 5. I have a 1,000-watt microwave, so that works for me. Make sure all the chips are melted. You don't want it to be lumpy at all. This looks perfect. Now I've pulled this out just for about 5 minutes so it warms up a little bit. That way it gives me more time to work with the chocolate and doesn't set before I can get to all the corners. You want to make a nice line all over to make it easier to spread everywhere. Now you gotta work quickly. Now this is my favorite tool ever. A small offset spatula helps to press it all wherever you need it to go. Aim for the edges, first. And don't be afraid to move the pan around, but work fast. Once you have it completely covered and you don't see any more caramel, I just take the tip and go back and forth in small lines from side to side. And then turn around and finish just to make a cute little design. Now we gotta wait for the chocolate to firm up and then we can cut them. Stick them back in the fridge. Son, are you hungry? Yeah. Okay. Now it's time to get cutting. I've got a serrated knife because I find that it cuts through the chocolate a lot easier. And I like to do a little bit of a sawing motion so it doesn't crack. Okay. Now, chocolate for me. Now I have this cutting board here that is actually from my art kit from college. That's my favorite thing to use to cut up my bars. It has all of the ruler measurements right on the sides. I like to cut them in half first, long-wise. Now I've got our two sides, flip them over, and I cut them 2 inches, so they're 4 by 2 bars. Now they're all done. Look at those beautiful layers. Your friends are gonna love these. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next month. Some cookie.